Welcome everybody to the Board of Education meeting. Tonight's July 24th. Before we have at it, I just need to do some housekeeping. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the School District of the Chatham Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the borough and the township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP, which is the Alternative Press Online newspaper. So, Mr. DeQuilla, if you wouldn't mind doing roll call, it should be quick.
Sure. Mr. Arnold.
Here.
Ms. Chickarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark. Mr. Connors.
Here.
Ms. Cronin. Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Valenti. And Ms. Weber.
Here.
5 present and accountable.
And Kim will be joining us. She just had to run home and grab something. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, because it's summer hours, I'm going to forego the board president's comments and move right over to the administrative report. Dr. LaSousa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. First off, I just want to comment that the construction is moving along all over the district. For the most part, we're making good progress. Mr. DeQuilla will give a more detailed summary of each project, but we're very busy at pretty much every building, or at least most of them. And the contractors have been working well with the principals and have been responsive to us when we have a concern or a need. So that's been sort of the theme of the summer has been construction. Secondly, I'd like to just comment on the state aid that we received, because we spend a lot of time, or at least I spend a lot of time expressing my frustration with how districts are funded in New Jersey. And although we continue to be underfunded based on CIFRA, the $168,000 bump that we were notified we would receive a few weeks ago amounts to about an 8% increase in the aid that we were slated to get and that we received last year. And if this compromise turns out to be true to form, the way it looks is that Senate President Sweeney got what he was aiming for, which was to gradually remove funding from districts that have been overfunded since 2008 when CIFRA took effect, and redistribute it, if you will, to the districts that have been underfunded, and we fall into the latter category. So the expectation on the part of districts like us is that the aid increase will continue down the road, especially if the governor's race ends up in a place where Senator Sweeney receives the support to continue to be Senate President. So that's good news, and just wanted to mention that. We discussed it in finance, and I'm sure you'll report out on that. In terms of enrollment, we are right now at approximately 4,179 students. So I say approximately only because we always have students that are in some place on the spectrum of registration. So there are a few others in the pipeline behind them. That number should creep up as we get closer to the school year. So 4179 is where we are today. This time last year we were about at 4185, but we then increased throughout the fall and into the school year. So when the school year ended last year, June 30th, we were at 4231. So right now we're about 45 or so students less than we had in June. But if what happens this year is what happened last year, we'll pick up students for the remainder of the summer and then into the school year. And then, of course, we just bounce around over the course of the year as students enter or exit. We are working on fully staffing and allocating our sections for next year. We have still sorting through some final scheduling at both Chatham High School and Chatham Middle School. In terms of the elementary schools, I think Lafayette is in good shape as of now. Milton Avenue School and Washington Avenue School, as we anticipated, are approaching a max in kindergarten that we usually conform to, which is 25 students. As we've done in the past, if we hit that 25, you might recall one year, a few years ago, we had 100 at Washington Avenue School, and we told any new families who registered that their child would go to Southern Boulevard School, where we had, for kindergarten, where we had additional sections. What we would do this year is add a section to Washington, and then give some families the ability from Milton to go to Washington if we're at capacity at Milton. So I'm working with the principals. We're monitoring registration. I suspect there might be one or two people here tonight interested in this topic. And then by probably the first or second week in August, we'd make a final determination so that we can make our final schedules and class lists and so forth before we open the parent portal mid to late August. So that's pretty much where we are with enrollment. In terms of staffing, I'll just mention that we did receive some resignations in June that we had not anticipated, so we are almost fully staffed. We have one or two remaining positions. We interviewed someone today who we're appointing tonight. We have supervisors working on the last couple of positions that we need to get in place before September 1st, and there may be one instance that's on our radar screen right now where we may not have a teacher secured for September 1st based on the notification requirements if we end up hiring someone from another district. But we're working as hard as we can to staff all buildings and all schedules as soon as possible. But that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. LaSousa on any of that? We're all set for the incoming freshmen at the high school, the 381 of them?
We will be set for them. We're still cleaning the buildings and
We've been preparing for this class since the second grade. They were in the second grade.
I will mention that the Library and Media Center, I know I've written this to you, but you'll recall back in May or June, we accepted a rather large donation from the PTO, upwards of $50,000 to replace the carpeting in the Media Center. There was more to it than that. In order to really reconfigure all of the furniture in there, create a different kind of space that could accommodate more kids more easily and allow for more movement and flexibility. We needed to replace the carpet because the shelving in there was about 15 years old. So they've done that. The Media Center looks absolutely terrific. They're still finalizing the last details, but it really will be a dramatic change and a dramatic improvement, and we owe that to the generosity of the PTO.
It does. It looks fantastic if you get a chance. They put single station counter levels around the perimeter by the front and the back area where the students, the quiet area. As you get further away from the door, it gets quieter and quieter, group work, and then back toward the skylights. But it really, the space looks transformed. It's really spectacular. I made the mistake of saying bar height, and the principal corrected me. He goes, in schools we call those counter height. Yes, good idea. But it looks really fantastic. Good thinking. It's summertime. Very good. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. LaSousa? No, all set. Mr. DeCorlo, would you mind?
Sure, not a problem. I just wanted to go through, Dr. LaSousa touched on construction update. The Cougar Field with Phase 1 and 2, the contractor CatCord is making steady progress on all of the different sections of the work. The bleachers have been delivered and they're starting to be assembled. As of last week, approximately 60% of the walking path was outlined and needs to be filled in with crushed stone, and the last section to be done was around the back Cougar or the grass soccer field in the back. We have a minor issue with the concession stand and location, which we're working on, but other than the concession stand, the entire project should be completed on time. Shifting to the middle school, the contractor GPC is doing great on all of the classroom work. 6 out of the 9 classrooms that he's working on should be finished by the end of this week, set for the district to start setting them up. The other 3 classrooms and the new restrooms will be finished, targeted by middle of August. So still plenty of time to get them set and ready for school. The Southern Boulevard front office relocation is going well, and the contractor should finish by the first week of August. The contractor for the roof work at both, or actually not both, but the high school, middle school in Lafayette is progressing well. He will be finishing the first phase at the high school and then shifting to the middle school because the contractor does need to do, the contractor middle school needs to lay some work on some pipes on the roof. So we'll get the new roof, then put the pipes down rather than do things in reverse order. As far as the other referendum projects, the high school auditorium should be going to bid soon. We will be opening the bids August 24th and hopefully awarding the contract at the August 28th meeting, with the construction slated to start the beginning of January. So the contractor will have plenty of time, and this should afford us some more favorable pricing. The middle school and Milton additions, the projects, we had a final design meeting today, so the specs will be put together. We hope to get those out to bid and awarded either of the two September board meetings. And then the central office addition, that one will final design, and again, hope to award at the last September meeting. So all the construction is moving along, and as Dr. LaSousa said, the contractors have been very responsive, and everything should be done prior to school opening.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Will everything be done prior to the opening bell?
That is the game plan, and should be, with the
Okay,
exception of-
with the exception of non-essential items?
Correct.
Okay. We could still hold activities at Cougar without a
Yes.
completed concession stand?
Yes.
Okay.
Where will that stand in terms of the, I believe the fall season starts August,
14th.
I think it's the 14th.
Practice, yes.
Where will the Cougar Field project be in that, at that point?
At one of the
Presumably.
meetings today, we had another discussion, depend on the progress of installing, actually depending on the work on the concession stand, we will know in a week whether or not we can use all aspects of the field or only limited aspects. So in our meeting with Bill Abrera, we will keep him informed to see if he has to scramble for alternative sites or can use Cougar. It all depends on the heavy equipment that the
Yeah, you
contractor
can always
needs.
use the back.
Correct, it's just a matter of the
Getting
people
there.
getting,
Yeah.
getting to the back.
And are there plans at least contemplated in the event that the construction work within the schools could impact upon the school opening?
The plan is,
I know.
tell the contractor to hurry up and get it done.
Well, the only
But no,
interior is the middle school.
Yeah, I
There-
can appreciate that's the hope and the plan, but my question stands, is there a plan in the event that there is a delay? That
We
we
will-
have a plan B that will help reduce the impact or at least maybe shuffle some things around?
We will work with the principals to develop that probably in the beginning of August, because then you have a 3-week look ahead to evaluate if anything isn't going to be done.
So the answer is no, we don't have a plan now, but we hope to have a plan.
We will have one, and
Okay.
we'll work on that in the beginning of August if need be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the reality is, Rich, because of our enrollment and facilities constraints, if we don't have the classrooms at the middle school or at Southern, if we don't have that, element of the project completed, we will be having classes in the gym and in the library and in the,
I just-
auditoriums, that there's just we don't have any excess space in our building, so we have to
Dust
get
off your
those done.
Hurricane Sandy plans, because that's what we did when we relocated all of Southern into the other schools.
That's all I'm asking, is there a plan in place in the event that there is a delay? Because quite frankly, you should presume that there will be delays. I just want to know, is there a plan? And it sounds like there will be one.
We will develop one.
That's what I wanted to hear. And I'll ask you that at the next meeting,
Which is when?
which is soon.
August 28th.
End of August.
I think the
Not
next
too
meeting is August 28th.
Not too soon.
Excellent. Very good. I'm sorry, Peter, did you have additional, or
Nope, that was it, I'm done.
any additional questions for Peter on any of the construction projects? No, very good. Moving ahead. Committee reports, Ann, for personnel, Mr. Chicarelli?
Yes, personnel met just before this meeting. We discussed, we went over the staffing, the new retirements, any new resignations, just as Dr. LaSousa had said, he basically stole my whole show, which I guess is good. Few positions still need to be filled, but we're working hard to get fully staffed by the beginning of the school year. And then he just gave us an update on the enrollment as of today, and we won't have final numbers probably until first or second week of August.
Okay.
And I don't know when we meet again.
September.
Oh, awesome, 9/11.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ann or Beth? You know Beth loves questions. Excellent, very good. Moving on to curriculum. Oh, Michelle's not here?
Yeah, we have not met since
Oh,
the last.
thank you, Lotta.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfin is not here, but I attended finance and facilities. We talked about the state aid, the $168,000. We have not had state aid in years and years. We have been severely underfunded for too many years, and we're going to use that money, the $168,000, not immediately, but assess our needs both from a capital improvement as well as any staffing needs that might occur. So that money will not necessarily be baked right into the operating budget, but it could go to capital improvements or some other things off our long-range facility plan that we have just kept putting off. Most of our focus and our funding has gone to enrollment over the last, that's no secret, the last 10 years, our enrollment has gone up 40-some-odd%, and that's where the bulk of our, any excess funds have gone, and even funds that were not excess, we cut other programs to accommodate the enrollment, the growing enrollment. So that was the first item that we talked about at length, and the second were the construction referendum project, which Mr. DeQuilla gave a lengthy report on. So there, bless you.
God bless you.
There was no other topics that were discussed at the finance meeting. Does anybody have any questions? No? We're good. Very good. Mr. Connors, policy?
No, haven't met since the last meeting, and our next meeting is scheduled for, I'm gonna guess 8/28.
Excellent. Oh, and personnel did punt something to you, so you will have something on your agenda. Hey, Kim. Okay, very good. Moving on to liaison reports. Summertime, there are generally not too many. Mr. Connors for the borough.
Nothing to report.
Ms. Clark is not here. Back to you, Mr. Connors for the boosters.
Boosters has not met since our last meeting. I don't think their next meeting, I think the next meeting won't be until the first week
September.
in September.
Yeah, first Tuesday in
But now
September.
that I've got a whole captive audience out here, I can tell you about the boosters. Any of you guys have high school students, or you just here for
They're K
Washington
to
Avenue?
3. They don't care.
I was gonna say, you look like high school students. You're welcome. Okay, you can get what you want.
the hat now?
Nothing to report from the boosters.
Yet. He'll get back to you on that. Mr. Arnott, anything for performing arts?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm glad you asked, thank you. First of all, I'm going to go in reverse order. First of all, our next Performing Arts Boosters meeting is September 13th at 7 p.m. in the Lafayette School Teachers Lounge. We welcome new members to join, and I think when we have a steady supply of young blood coming in, they have great ideas. They have great fundraising ideas. They have better fundraising ideas than the old people. If you leave it up to the old people, you're going to see Burt Bacharach and a fundraiser, and you don't want to do that. So
They don't even know who that is.
We need you to come and join the Performing Arts Boosters, which has a marvelous mission. Anyhow, I want to tell you what the school district of the Chatham's Theater Department has announced its productions for the 17-18 year. The high school fall play is going to be A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. It'll take place November 15th and 16th in the high school auditorium. The middle school musical will be January 18th through the 20th in the middle school auditorium, and that's going to be Willy Wonka, so that should be interesting. And then the spring musical for the high school will be Fiddler on the Roof, which is magnificent. That's going to also take place in the middle school auditorium because we have the construction going on in the high school auditorium. We want to congratulate rising senior Elizabeth Stewart, who's been accepted to the Alto 2 section of the 2017 National Choir. So, you know,
Wow, well done.
tip the hat there. And then finally, I want to talk about the topic very dear to my heart. I've had several children in marching band, and my wife and I are both involved with marching band as well. Last year, if you remember, the Chatham High School Marching Band did a program based on Silk Road, which was really, really creative, visually incredible, and a wonderful treat for anyone attending the football games, and they performed really well in their competitions, taking first in several. This year, they do a 180, This is going to be a patriotic, classic show celebrating American independence and paying tribute to the fallen soldier. So it's nice to see how the marching band and the teachers and Mr. Connie and all his great staff and volunteer can turn on a dime. And I think that's going to be a real treat this fall for everyone to behold. So I'm done. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Sal, I appreciate it. And there'll be plenty of seats at Cougar, probably about 1,200 seats, so we can fill those up. Ms. Kenny, Chatham Education Foundation?
Yes, I'd just like to tell people to mark their calendar for November 4th for the annual trivia night that CEF always puts on, so, but more to come on that. More details to come.
Excellent.
That's it for that.
Very good. Mr. Gilfillan's not here for recreation. Ms. Cronin, the PTO District Cabinet, they don't meet over the summer, right?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Then, moving right along, I would like to make a motion to pass the minutes of the public and private session from June 19th.
Second.
Thank you. Sal, second that. Peter, do you mind telling us who needs to abstain?
Mr. Valenti,
Oh,
the
okay.
one that wasn't there, so
Okay.
ready to go on all 6 votes.
Very good. So those in favor of passing the June 19th public and private session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You good, Peter?
Duly noted, passes 6-0.
Okay, very good. So we have our first opportunity for public commentary. We have one microphone up here to my right. If you would, you know, if all of you are going to talk, then please be conscious of the time. If you have a couple of representatives and the rest of you can say, yes, I'm with her, that's also fine. If whoever's speaking wants to call out and say who's here on a particular topic. So if you have a couple of spokespersons, that would be great.
Am I allowed to use the podium?
Sure, whatever.
You do have to sign in though.
Yeah, if you could sign in and also introduce yourself. If, just for fun, how many folks in the audience, is this your first Board of Ed meeting? Excellent. All right, I hope to see you all. This is on camera, so you're going to see.
Everybody turn around.
No, the
We'll
camera's right
send you a
here.
list of dates.
Don't worry, the camera's right here. But welcome aboard. So, and just so you know, when we go through the regular agenda, if it appears that we go through it a little quickly, it's because these are all posted on Friday afternoon. Peter and his team post them, so you should look at it over the weekend, see if there's something on the agenda that, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that, or gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. Let me go tell them what a great job they're doing. So again, I know some of you are new to the district. Please take a look at the agenda, pass it around to your friends, give them the link, and this way you can, you know, participate in as much or as little as you want. Hopefully, the more the merrier. Sorry, I interrupted. You're all set?
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Better at the podium?
Can you, yeah. I need to have my notes here. I'm not the best public speaker, so
Okay. If you would
when I
just
get nervous, I tend to lose track of where I'm at
Very
and
good.
tell bad jokes,
just
so.
be, you know, just be cognizant of the time. Just be cognizant of the time.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, and there, as you can see, there's a lot of people here that support the message that my neighbor Laura and I are going to present. Just some concerns we have.
If you would just introduce yourself first. that'd
Yeah, my name's Nikki Saganovich. I live in the borough. I'm zoned for Washington, or my kids are zoned for Washington Avenue School. I have 2 kids right now that are in Washington Avenue School. My 2 sons are entering 3rd, entering 2nd, and I have a daughter that's entering kindergarten. And I've emailed with Dr. L'Souza. He's been very gracious. In fact, I want to thank you for graciously responding to all of our emails. I'm sure it's
One still in my box.
so, one, yeah.
Don't worry, that's probably
That's,
from me.
yeah.
I said we could talk tonight.
But I'm sure that's probably not how you want to spend your summer, but I do appreciate it, and it's helped out a lot. But we do have concerns about the 25 cap in these 3 sessions. So with the combining or the removal of one of the PM sessions, we're looking at 25 kids per class. And we just don't feel like that's consistent with Chatham's reputation as a nationally ranked school district. Excuse me. I know at Southern Boulevard that there were 25, 24 kids in last year's kindergarten sessions, and we have heard that that was not a positive experience. We actually had one mother in particular that said that her son entered kindergarten felt that he had the right skill set to enter kindergarten, and he's now in brain camp, and she really feels confident that that was due to lack of individual instruction that he received in kindergarten, just because there were so many kids in the class. Excuse me. I know that this has been done for a while, the 25 cap. I don't know if you've actually been at the 25 cap recently. I know you've had low enrollment over the last couple years, but I feel like that we've done this for this time does not mean it works. I feel that we should review this from time to time and see, if there's better options. I feel like that kind of attitude really doesn't lead to change and improvement within the school district. I do know that there are paras in the class. I am so grateful for the para-planners that Chatham has. The two that my sons have had so far in kindergarten probably could rival some of the teachers in neighboring districts and states. I know there's aides also issued for the kids that need them, but my concern with that is I feel like in kindergarten, a lot of these kids have not been diagnosed with their with learning disabilities. My two sons are perfect examples. They both were diagnosed. One was at the end of kindergarten, one was halfway through first grade. And does not mean that those behavioral problems weren't there during kindergarten. And they leaned heavily on those paras. And I still feel guilty that they leaned so heavily that some of these other kids just did not receive the instruction that and the attention that they deserved. I also am concerned about being at the max and if we have any kids join throughout the year. Dr. Lasucci, you talked about how that kind of ramps up in the fall a little bit. And both of my boys had a couple kids join throughout the year, and I don't know why we're not leaving a little wiggle room for that as well. And then this is probably the most concerning or confusing for me. Last PM sessions at Washington Avenue School had 15 and 16 kids in them. That is a 65% increase to what we're looking at potentially this fall. And I want to know why, if we add a fourth session, if it's reinstated, we're looking at 18 kids based on the numbers now of what we have registered. I know there's additional parents that are pre-registered, some are in this room, so we do know what's going to happen. We're hoping it pushes us over. But why was 15 okay last year and 18 is not enough to reinstate this fourth session this year? Is this a budget issue? I don't know. I know that Washington Avenue parents and local businesses raised $76,000 for a new desperately needed playground, which by the way is going in today. Kids were so excited. I just feel like why can we not afford to keep our classrooms at or below the national average? This is Chatham. We take a lot of pride in this school district. And we are one of the top school districts because of Dr. L'Souza, because of you guys. And I feel like we have an image to uphold, and we owe it to our kids to continue this. I hate to bring up half-day kindergarten. I know it's a hot button. But that did not pass. That referendum did not pass. I'm hoping eventually it does. I know we're kind of grooming things so that in the future that it can. I know how you guys feel. I know how Dr. L'Souza feels. It's better for our children. It's the direction we hope to go. We cannot change that. What can be changed is this classroom size. I know 25 is a New Jersey cap, correct? It's not?
There's no cap. I mean, if 50 kindergartners move in, we have to educate them.
But you shift them, right? Like Dr.
We
L'Souza
have
said,
to-
they may go to
It's
Southern.
the best you can with limited facilities.
Okay. So this 25 cap, though, I feel like can be adjusted down. So while our kids are already at a disadvantage for half-day kindergarten, we're talking about a 2.5-hour session to cram in all this curriculum, and that cannot be changed right now, but I feel like this max on the classroom can be changed, and that's something that's going to give our kids a chance moving forward. This is their first introductory to the public school system. A lot of these kids can't handle chaos in the room. They're easily distracted. Like I said, they're not yet diagnosed if they do, in fact, have learning disabilities. I think that we are setting them up to fail, and potentially the teachers too. And so I'm concerned. And like I said, Dr. L'Souza was very gracious in answering all our emails, but I'm still concerned. I'm really worried about the school year.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Hi, Hi, my name is Laura Jones, and I'm Nikki's neighbor. And I have a daughter who's entering Washington Avenue School kindergarten as well.
As your first or no?
As my first.
Okay.
So
Welcome
we've been
aboard.
in town 3 years. This is actually, though, my second Board of Ed meeting. The first one was when we all received a wonderful schooling on the social studies curriculum.
March 6th.
Yes, exactly. And I was very pleased with the district's handling of that matter, and I'm confident that we can ideally reach some sort of resolution, if not with the absolute class sizes, with perhaps some modifications in the classroom if we are having to deal with large class sizes. But I want to echo Nikki's earlier sentiments. That number, 66% increase, it's something that as a person and as a mom really anticipating and looking forward to joining the public school system in Chatham, I'm still very eager and excited to do so, and we chose the afternoon session hoping that we would perhaps be entering a little bit smaller of a stream. From years past, it was, I guess, my hearsay, but also from talking to friends and neighbors, the PM session was always a little bit more calm, a little bit less students. And again, with the half-day kindergarten, we're often shuttling our children to other enrichment activities, making up for it. So by the time we get those kids into the afternoon session, they're 2.5 hours, they've already been somewhere else, they're a little bit tired, and those big class sizes, I feel, are going to have a big impact. And it's just ultimately comes down to a bit of shock and not what I personally had expected. If we were over across town in Borough Hall because we heard that there was going to be a 66% increase in our property taxes, I think that there'd be a lot of people in the room that were kind of wondering why this year, what's going on, and why wasn't all of the 18 students or that kind of level of students, 15, 16, why wasn't that good enough for this year? I know that we've had some budget challenges. To put that in perspective, that's almost like an extra 10 kids. My daughter's pre-K class had 10 kids in it this year. And so I am quite concerned. She's not a girl that does great in groups. Birthday parties are not the most fun of times for us, if anyone has seen that. And, you know, it's a disappointment, I will say, if this increased class does not get added back. And I also want to bring up the teachers as well. We know that large class sizes can lead to frustration with teachers. It can lead to less individualized attention, but also lower teacher satisfaction. And the flip side of quantity of the education is the quality of the education. And I hope that we can do everything in our power to make sure that quality of education and the satisfaction of the educators who work so hard to get through the curriculum can be respected. So, and that is, you know, thank you very much for taking our comments into consideration, and really look forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Letters in your name. Jones.
Hi, yes, thank you. My name is Judy Hsu. I live in Green Village. I have a daughter who will be going into second grade at Washington Avenue School, and my son is going to go into kindergarten this year at Washington Avenue School. And one of the things I did want to know, I know you mentioned the 25 is the recommended class size, but I did take the time to go through the Washington Avenue directory. And of the 20 classes that are currently there for the 2016-2017 school year, the class average was 18.25 students per class across the board. So we feel that 25 students for your kindergarten class, and for not only the kids who might need to be classified or need the extra help, but in addition to that, you have students that, some students went to a full-day pre-K program, so they're used to a full-day program. You have some students that only went to a 2-day pre-K program, and you may have students that never even went to a pre-K program, and now you're going to put them into a kindergarten class with one teacher with 25 students and some paras. It's just not going to give them the attention that they need, and I don't understand why with the neediest students and where you want them to have a positive experience in their first encounter in a public school system, you would put them in a situation where you have a 25-to-1 certified teacher. And then granted, you have paras, but it's really up to that teacher to identify those students that need help and any additional help they may need. Okay, so that was my only concern, was that the class average, when you say 25 students per class is the recommended, it's not recommended for any other grade level, and you could go to that size with other grade levels, which you haven't. So my concern is, why would you accept that at a kindergarten grade level when you don't do it for any of the other K-3 classes that you have in that school?
Thank you.
Yep.
And we will answer it. We'd like to get we never know how many public commentary is, so we'd like to go through again for the first timers. Whoever has public commentary, we go through the whole thing. Those items that we can answer, we do. Sometimes it's just folks just want to, get up and let us know something. So sometimes it doesn't require an answer. Most times they're just showering compliments on Mr. Connors, and then they go home.
Which I haven't heard yet.
You're doing a great job, Mr. Connor.
There you go.
Whatever you got, the
Hi, my name is Tara Field, and my daughter Madeline is going to be entering third grade at Washington Avenue, and then I have a son that will be entering kindergarten as well. My son last year was at St. Pat's, and I had thought about keeping him at St. Patrick's because of the full-day program, but I really enjoyed the Washington Avenue family, so my husband and I made a decision to send him to Washington Avenue, being that it's a half-day program. And so I get concerned, and I echo everybody else's sentiment here, that all of our kids have been in pre-K for 2 to 3 years, and they've all had class sizes that are about 10. And now they're going to be entering a program that has a shorter day period and has 15 more kids in it. And so I get concerned for my son and his education in the kindergarten. One of the main reasons I got up here was because I wanted to know if you were going to respond to the questions. So, and I'm happy to hear that you said that you would. But some of my questions are, I get concerned about people entering the school year and the class size being bigger. So my question is, if more students enter throughout the school year, is there the possibility that the kindergarten class could go to 26, 27, 28? Or will you add another classroom? So if the max is 25 now, and you add more children, would you potentially go to 26, potentially 30?
Like I mentioned, if 50 kindergartners move in, we have to educate every single one of them and make accommodations, however.
Without adding additional classrooms or teachers?
Well, we don't have any physical brick and mortar. We would just have to juggle, just.
But you have the ability to have a PM class.
No. There's flexibility currently. Absolutely, yes. We could
Okay.
add. I'm going to let Dr. LaSousa answer.
Got it.
But again, I just want everybody to know we can't shut our doors.
No, I understand that, but I guess my concern is, would you put it to 28 or 30 if 50 kids moved in? That's my one question. The other question is, I know you said that there are people that are registered that haven't obviously completed registration, so the numbers could bump up. And I think you said you were going to make that decision in early August. So if you make that decision in early August to add another teacher, how are you going to make sure that you have that person physically available for the start of school September 5th? That's my second question.
We'll answer that.
Okay, because it sounds like you're not that you're struggling. I think you're probably doing a good job, but getting people in the right slot by September 5th
Rest
could be a
assured,
challenge.
we're not struggling.
Okay. I'm sure there are tons of teachers that want to come here, but
I am envious, though. You have like 200 kids in that class that cross the board, and you heard me mention that the current freshmen are 381 kids.
yes. So we only have 200 for the entering kindergarten class?
Yes, I'm envious of all of you.
So
Okay.
for the next
So they're gonna be
13
at a
years of
great
their life,
advantage.
You are going to be greatly at an advantage.
You're like the
over
most
those
advantaged
kids that
class.
graduated 350.
But go ahead.
We
we're
want them to be
interrupting.
advantaged from day one. All right, so that was actually really my only questions. I just want to make sure that if other kids are added, that it would be accommodative. So I guess if you could answer all of our questions,
We
unless
will.
someone else has to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Did the other 4 speakers cover pretty much everything that is on everybody else's mind? Are there any additional public commentary before we close it and then answer your questions and then move on to the agenda? And again, if something piques your interest that is just so enticing, there's a second opportunity for public commentary after we go through the agenda. So don't go away if something is really like burning Any other additional public commentary? Mr. Heath is not here. I'm just looking for the regulars. No? Okay, very good. So I'm going to let Dr. LaSousa answer most of your questions. I did want to comment on the fact that your class is like a third lower, or significantly lower than we've ever had. So Dr. LaSousa, if you could lead off if I need to fill in. But again, rest assured, Tara, we're not struggling. We're not struggling. So Mike, if you would start off, and then if we need to fill in, we will.
Sure.
Again, remember, this is their first time. Us old fogies have done this too many times to count. If anybody wants to take our places, just throw it out there.
Well, first off, thank you for the commentary, because a lot of that is spot on and is in fact the reason why we try to wait until the last minute to make the best determination possible. And we often end up erring on the side of caution, anticipating that there could be a bump in enrollment or there could be additional kids who wind up registering, and we'd rather have fewer students in a classroom than more students. And when I say we, that's not just the folks in this room, but that's of course the principals who are constantly advocating all of the time with me for more staff all over the place. And of course the teachers too, who spending all of your day with kids who are 5 years old and 6 years old is hard work and can be trying. So I don't dispute any of the valid points that were made. I'll try to hit on a couple of the questions. So the first, I guess, is the notion that it's unusual to have 25, or this increase is a big jump from previous years. It's actually kind of the opposite. 25's been more the norm. This current year, or 16-17 rather, has been an anomaly at Washington and Milton, and that's because the enrollment is declining in those two schools. In all three of the elementary schools, we've operated at 25 kids, not just in kindergarten, but at different points in other grade levels. And the reason for that, so it's then the other question was, well, why is it that in 16-17 you only had 16 or 15 kids in a section, but now that number is going to jump up? The reason for that mainly is that there are two different timelines that we have to take into account. There's the September 1st is the first day of school timeline, and that's what we're talking about tonight, and it's fairly easy for us to add a section before September 1st, so long as it's not in Chinese or chemistry. But to add an elementary section someplace is not difficult at this time of the year. There are still talented people around. Or German French, right. The other timeline, though, is that the state requires us to notify staff members, at least non-tenured staff members, by May 15th if they have an employment contract. So we have our internal staffing discussions about which teachers we're retaining, where we are assigning people, all really in the February, March, April timeframe, and that's all finalized really by I'd say April 15th, and then May 15th is the hard stop on when we notify people if they are returning or not. So there's a little bit of a lag by a year or so. So if we cross the May 15th timeline, what ends up happening is that if we find out that we're going to have fewer kids at a certain grade level, like kindergarten this year at Washington, our choice is to go ahead and just leave the staff member in place because we've already told her she has a job, or rip the Band-Aid off and tell her at this time of the year or in June or whenever it might be, sorry, we know we told you were coming back next year, we changed our minds, and now that person has not had time to even do a proper job search or consider alternatives. So our timelines are the timeline for staff is almost staggered or lags by a year in advance of when we make decisions about enrollment. So on the one hand, it's true, we would be increasing the section size at Washington by whatever percentage, but on the other hand, the size that's there now is a dramatic difference from what was common 5 years ago. My first year as superintendent in July, we had made the announcement that Washington Avenue School was at 100 students in 4 sections, and that any new person enrolled would have to start at Southern Boulevard School. So 25 has been kind of more the norm depending on AM versus PM in the school each year. But at that point in time, we were constantly gaining kids. Our enrollment was really climbing. And now what's happening at Washington and Milton is that the enrollment's declining, whereas at Southern it's increasing. What would happen if students enter, throughout the year? We have been faced with that in the past. I can recall at Southern Boulevard School in particular, because we had no classrooms, so we didn't have the option to add. And at Washington, in fact, for a number of years, we had no additional classrooms. We had 5 sections, first grade, second grade, third grade, for a great number of years, and 4 sections of kindergarten. We're moving to 4 sections of first grade next year because of the enrollment loss. But the option, if you have no classrooms, the option when students enter, if you're approaching 28 or 30, the first option is to send that child to a different school in the district because we have the right of assignment for students. The second option is to hire a second teacher but have them team teach in the same classroom so that you have 2 teachers in a class of 28 or 30 instead of just 1. I would not anticipate that that's going to be something we have to consider in this situation. In terms of how to know if a teacher will be ready, in this case, one of the reasons we determined that Washington would be the place we add a section is that we have a staff member who's not full-time, and the staff member is able to be increased to full-time, so we would simply just use the current staff member and increase our FTE, and therefore we wouldn't have to incur a search or additional expenses associated with a brand new staff member. So there's no question that and I will mention too, kindergarten actually is the grade level where it's more common for us to lose students than gain students. So in many instances, we might have, X number of students right now, but 3 or 4 or 5 of those kids end up not coming because their parents decide that they're going to enroll in a full-day program, or they are actually enrolled in another district. One reason we wait is because it's always possible we'll get an influx of students registering, but it's also possible that we'll drop students. And we've had more of the latter over the years than we've had of the former at kindergarten.
Right, the double register.
Yeah, so that's all to say the principal, I will continue to meet with the principals. The registrar in the district sends me updates on students who are entering. We get notifications and that kind of thing. And all of the educational professionals will always err on the side of more staff and more sections with fewer students in those sections than going right up to the max that we have, for whatever reason, followed, over the years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. The only 2 things that I want to add directly to Tara's question. The reason we're not worried is we have the most amount of flexibility right now. We have a staff member on site, they're just going to increase. That's why we don't have to worry about hiring and again, we can assign new families to wherever there's the most space. The other thing, I think people forget that we need 1 physical classroom to run 2 sections in kindergarten. But the reason the upper grades are a little bit smaller is because it's 1 classroom for all day. So that's why it seems a little bit more skewed, because we just don't physically have the space. The referendum failed a couple of years ago. The goal was to specifically build kindergarten classrooms. Most of you probably moved here for the school system, so we are victims of our own success. With that being said, we have still achieved a tremendous amount, or I should say our students and our staff are extremely high achiever, including the kids that had 381 kids in their grade. Whereas your kids have 200 kids in their grade, or just under actually when I did the math. So please rest assured that they will not be behind anything. They in fact are going to be ahead of all of our children and then all of the children that are currently in the district. So thank you, Dr. LaSousse, I appreciate it. If you have additional questions, you can bring them up during the second commentary. We're going to move on to the regular agenda, but before I do, I just want to double check that the other board members, if you have anything to add. No, you're good? All of our kids were in huge classrooms that they've gone on to schools that they probably shouldn't have gotten into. Well, I've known Mr. Connors for about 3 decades, so I'm going to speak for our kids anyway. So very good. So we're going to move on to the action items. And again, it goes fairly quickly, so stand by if you have something else you wanted to say. So moving on to personnel. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 through A22, I believe.
And 23,
Yes.
and 23 on the addendum?
Well, yeah, 6
Oh,
on the,
6.
and 6 on the addendum.
Got it, I'm with
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Second.
You know how we love audibles, Beth? Go ahead, what are they?
The first is A9, the replacement school counselor may move off her termination date would be 1/17/18, not 1/4. And then the second correction.
Wait, one more time?
May
Gotcha.
means off
Got it.
1/17/18.
Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
170,
Yes,
the dollar amount has to change, the program.
I can't get it in my head. And then.
You're the math guy, though.
Turn to Chatham to be able to figure that out.
The other is A12, the second individual, we're going to strike her appointment. She has her name, you are.
12,
First name Melanie, last name.
Got it?
okay. Stricken,
Okay.
thank you. So, Peter, just a point of procedure, can we move on 9 without the number?
Yes, and you can leave it as to be determined. It will increase by approximately 62 divided by.
At least put a cap on it, I can't go with undetermined.
Increase by approximately $3,000 because the person will receive one more full pay. So $62,000 a year means they get approximately $6,270 per month, and they'll get another half month's pay, so another $3,000, so less than $30,000.
So, less than 30,000, wait a second, that's a swing.
Prorated less than 30.
Prorated,
Oh.
prorated amount will
Prorated,
be
yeah.
increased from 26,000 and change.
To 29
less than
and change.
30 to 29 and change.
Okay, so is this something that could wait till August, or do we need to move on it?
So I can amend it officially on the August agenda, but I'd like to issue a contract with the individual.
Okay, so can we, instead of a TBD though, can we put a number there, not to exceed a number?
Sure, if you give me a second, I'll calculate.
We have time. Yeah, we'll come back to that. So hold on to personnel for a minute.
I do think we need to have a number. We can't just
Yeah, blank check makes me nervous. But we're just going to jump, if you'd stand by.
pull out 9.
We're going to do finance and then swing back to, we can't pull it out because Beth wants to move on the contract.
I'm going to move it.
You want to do finance?
Just hang on, we're going to jump to finance and facilities. Oh, but Peter's doing the calculation. So we're just going to stand by. I'm going to get a water.
Oh, mine, but not mine.
So, what do you guys got to say?
What was for dinner?
Also,
Oh, you did.
this is your first, how many people is your first kid in the system? Raise your hand, don't be shy. Wow, geez. Welcome. Don't, don't hesitate to show up, particularly when I come off the board. Come and talk as much as you want.
Amanda, could you just raise your hand? Amanda, just raise your hand. These are all new Board of Ed.
I watched them on TV, which is why I'm here with my wet hair.
All right.
You get the second public
In
comment.
case you see some new blood, Amanda's the president of the Chatham Education Foundation, so all the money that's raised, over $1 million, Amanda and her team and her predecessors are behind that.
You will pay her when you leave.
But I was first to go to kindergarten.
Don't rock the boat, kid. We good?
Hang on.
Determine if the 16%. Tuesday, Wednesday.
While Peter's working, I just want to wish our retirees the best in their future pursuits.
We should add infomercial space all the time, like downtime where we could sort of,
Good.
like the plays, I can't wait to see Filler on the Roof.
This reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit with Sherry Terry and Will Ferrell.
Oh, the cheerleaders?
No, where they have to stretch their
Oh,
morning
stretch
show.
the morning show.
28,853.05.
28,853.
Wait, slow down.
28,853.
$28,853.05.
Did you double check the work?
Carry the two.
That's how somebody old does work.
That's right.
Very good.
Did you use front-end estimation for that? Okay, so then, And we're going to still go ahead with personnel.
Yes.
1 through 23, including the addendum 6. Does anybody have any additional questions on? Oh, I'm sorry, Beth, did you have any more? Thank you. Any questions?
Second it.
Rich already seconded.
Okay. Peter?
Agenda items
Go ahead.
A1 to 23 with adjustments to A9, A12, and the addendum for A6.
Excuse me, guys.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Gilfillan is not available tonight. Finance and Facilities, Ms. Ceccarelli, would you mind moving those items?
Yeah, I'd like to move action items B1 through B24 on the regular agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
We were all sleeping there, I know, sorry.
Okay, great. Seconded by Ms. Cronin. Does anybody have any questions for Peter or anybody on the Finance Committee on any of the finance and facility items? There's some donations on there. The Performing Arts Booster for $7,000. Thank you to them. That's mostly for transportation, for some events. Thank you. Number 5. Hey, I missed that. Oh, SBS donation for $29,000, almost $30,000, as outlined below. Oh my goodness, all kinds of
It's on
stuff.
the right, page 9, it's, I think, the,
Flex space, library supplies, sunshades, benches. How come they call theirs a bench? In Washington, they call it a buddy bench. All right, rhetorical. Tumble books, 2 Chrome carts, and a science residency program. Thank you. The class of 1967 has donated $170 for the purchase of a bronze dedication bench plaque.
Okay, then.
Who are they dedicating that to? The whole class?
Is there a bench?
Where's my bench? I don't have a bench.
I guess you have to donate one.
Yeah, really. Well, that's, if I'd known people, I wouldn't be sitting in this seat.
$30,000 from SBA, Washington Avenue, what are you guys gonna do?
They did 70 grand for the playground.
No, that wasn't your group, do not take credit for that.
Some of them.
I take credit.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions on finance and facilities? I know it's all construction all the time, mostly right now. All good, Peter? Do you mind?
Sure. Agenda items B1 to B24. Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 6-0.
Excellent. Ms. Clark is not available. So, Lotta, would you mind moving C1 through C11?
Yes, I'd like to move agenda item C1 to C11 to vote.
Second.
We didn't get a report, did we, Mike? Item number 1?
yes, we did, yes, we did.
Oh, here it is, sorry.
I thought there were 2 in there.
Yeah, no, there are, that's here, we got it.
Say, how could there be incidents over the summer, for God's sakes? Oh, these are before the school year. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we had a meeting on the 24th, I can't remember which day, 19th. So
19th.
that final couple days of school, they were still tying up some investigations.
Okay, very good, thank you. I just didn't see it in my folder. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions on items C1 through C11 on the curriculum agenda?
Nope.
Not at this time. Thank you. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure. Agenda items C1 to C11. Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 6-0.
Excellent, thank you. Policy, we have no policy items queued up. Mr. Connors had worked so hard the previous 4 or 5 meetings that he needs a break. Any additional board business that anybody feels the need to bring up? Just a reminder to the board, sitting here, don't rush out. We will have a need for an executive session. No action will be taken, but we do need to meet to discuss a legal matter, so please don't rush out. No additional board business? Excellent. We have our second opportunity for public commentary. Again, if you would introduce yourself and then, be as brief as possible, and then we can let you all get home.
Unless your group has donated over $1 million to the board, then you can talk as long as you want.
You might take that back.
here with a wet head, and I beg Ed not to take pictures of me and post them in the press, as it has been known to happen in the past. I did not plan to come because I have other commitments that I'm doing for the district this week. But I was watching Nikki talk on TV, and it's not good enough. I've listened since my kids were 2 or 3, and I could sit at home and I could opt out because of all I do, but I send my kids to private kindergarten, and I spend 40 to 50 or more hours a week working to make this district better.
Preaching to the choir.
And it's not just kindergarten, it is kindergarten. And there's a lot of stress in kindergarten. And at 25 kids, when we have the best teachers, I pay for private kindergarten tuitions, and I will stand in front of you and say, our teachers are better. The environment is not better. And I work every day, and I don't go to work and get a paying job because I believe it's that important. And, you know, we can buy stuff for the classrooms, but we need to fix kindergarten at the very beginning. Because in K through 3, yes, they will be fine, and yes, they will get there. But the bumps along the road in K through 3, if we don't fix them, I heard Nikki talk about some of the struggles. I face some of them in my family. We see anxiety. I see grants that are being asked for through the foundation, which are to minimize anxiety at this level. I mean, when I was in kindergarten, in K through 3, no one talked about anxiety. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but it's a real problem. And so when we look at classrooms of 25, I have to say, you know, as a full-day kindergarten parent, I'm disappointed. This is the route we're taking. You know, we looked at demographic reports. We wished that the class sizes would get smaller. They are getting smaller. We wished for more classrooms. We didn't go for the 8. We went for 4. You know, and we're sitting here now at maximum class sizes, and a whole new group of people, you know, they all happen to be my friends, because I have, even though my kid doesn't go to kindergarten, I have an incoming kindergartner who will be going out of district. And we need to figure out a way to fix this. And I mostly showed up tonight, I didn't move on. You know, I've made a different choice. And I feel like this fight gets lost. You know, when I started it, everybody said, oh, yes, everybody does that, and then everybody moves on. Well, I have not moved on. And I showed up with my wet hair and not planning to come here to let these women know, just because I took on other things in the district and I think that they're important, I didn't leave this issue behind. Just because my kid goes outside of the district, I don't think it's any less important. Every year I get and I fill out in my paper, and you know, if anybody looked at my registration, I was a double registrant every single year because I wanted to get to the end and check the box for my kids to go in district, because I think we're that good. I think Mrs. Volker is that good. I think the teachers that we hire are that great. But I can't wrap my head around 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I really can't wrap my head around it with 25 kids. And I wasn't ever willing to take that risk. So I'm here to support these women. And, you know, also to reopen the discussion on how do we continue to move so we're not in the same place. So I have not forgotten that topic. I also heard Sal talk, so I'll sort of switch gears. You know, something that's been on my mind this summer from a performing arts standpoint, my daughter is certainly a little theater nerd, going from music theater camp to music theater camp. And one of the things that I feel has become increasingly absent is the arts in K through 3 from a performing arts standpoint. This concerns me because I find that there are a lot of male children who are looking and would perhaps find a home where they do find a home in middle school and in the later grades. I see them want to do this in avenues where my daughter performs, and it can be quite intimidating to do when you have to go to a dance studio that's all girls. And so one of the areas that, I am interested in as we explore different areas of how do kids fit in K through 3 and 4, 5, it is, how do we make the arts more prevalent at those lower grade levels? Because we've lost the school play, we've lost the musicals, and as we, are re-envisioning what do we do as a district, it's something that I feel is important as I see things like behavior problems increasing. The new playground is great, and it addresses needs for a lot of kids. It doesn't address the needs for all kids, and we need to look at all avenues for extracurricular activities at all grades. So that's my
Thank you, Amanda.
piece.
Ed's putting that in the paper, right? Wet head and all.
Hi, my name's Kate Handerhan. I live in the borough, and my kids attend Washington. My eldest Tess is going into 3rd, and then my middle guy is going to be going to kindergarten. And just wondering, so we have 2 kindergarten classrooms in Washington. They will be used for the 2 morning sessions, and then 1 in the afternoon. What will the empty room be doing in the afternoon? What are the plans for that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
I would need to talk to Ms. Dudlow to find that out. It's what we usually do when we have an odd number of sections, and there have been times where we've had 5 sections of kindergarten in one building, many times when we've had 3 in others. We usually use the vacant room for some kind of pull-out instruction because we're tight on space for BSI and oftentimes special ed. So we have usually year to year at least 1 or 2, 3 classrooms where we're combining teachers, and we have dual use spaces that need to be approved by the county because we're so short on space. So when we have any room at a kindergarten room that's not being used, we typically use that for small group instruction. ESL from time to time also.
All right, thank you. Any additional?
One last question.
All righty.
You mentioned that you have a kindergarten teacher that is now part-time, and I assume she was full-time last year?
We're not going to talk about personnel.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into personnel. I'll tell you that we actually have a number of part-time kindergarten teachers.
Okay, so my concern is just that, is there any risk that that person would potentially leave because they wanted a full-time role? And it just seems odd to me that someone potentially had a full-time position and they're willing to accept a part-time position, and they wouldn't be looking for something that's full-time.
It's not unusual, actually. We
Okay.
have a lot of teachers who are either interested in going full-time from part-time, or even more probably from full-time down to part-time, because in their own personal lives, they want more flexibility, whatever the case might be. So you have to remember, we have close to 400 teachers in the district. A lot of them have different circumstances or at different stages of life, so they're all kinds of, situations out there.
Got it, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Roberts. I live in the borough, and I have a daughter who's going to be starting kindergarten in the fall as well. And I just wanted to, reiterate and kind of ask a question about the 25 cap size. And I know it's been very clear by all of the commentary today that that is the number we're concerned with. I think when we hear 200 as the total enrollment, and especially being compared to 300 plus in a high school freshman class, we know that our 200 class size will grow as people who do choose to send their children to full-day kindergarten at other schools will join us in first grade and continue to grow. And I think that just focusing on the 25 class size that we might be facing this year, as so many of us are just starting this public school journey, is that going to be a bad precedent that we continue to see, 25 plus, as we move forward? If the class sections are going to continue to be cut and people keep joining, are we going to be seeing, larger, more overcrowded classes year over year over year? Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. You said Lauren, correct? Lauren, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
We evaluate from year to year. That 200 is going to turn into somewhere between 250 and 300 by next year. But 1 year from now, at Washington, we'll be trying to figure out if only 10 new students came in and the total number is 85, and therefore there will continue to be 4 sections of first grade like there will be this year, or did 22 new students come in and we have 104 students or whatever the number is at first grade and adding a 5th section, going back to having a 5th section and then having 4 sections only in 2nd grade because of the current first graders.
One last question, is the money we're saving by potentially reducing a session being reallocated back into Washington School, or is it going back into the general pool?
No, all staffing, when we develop our budget, we lay out every staffing need. And if we reduce sections in one place, but we're gaining enrollment in another, like the high school where we added a counselor this year, that's how, it's all one big pot of money.
Very good. Thank you. I'm going to close the public section since there's no line. And again, we have an executive session. No action will be taken. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I hope to see you all here at additional meetings.
I apologize for interrupting, but I have to correct.
I was about to just be brilliant.
I have to correct the number for Ms. May Mizoff to $28,843.21. There was a $10.16 error.
That's coming right out of your bonus.
That's okay. Not a problem.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again. We hope to see you again at more meetings.